A sword rests against his own chest. The most powerful man in the world is marching toward him, and Cato the Younger is smiling, not because he is safe, because he has already died 1,000 times in his mind, and there is nothing left in him for Caesar to threaten. Think about that for a moment. There is a kind of man who cannot be controlled, cannot be bought, cannot be frightened. And here is the question that should keep you awake tonight. What did he know about fear that you do not? Because the truth is, most of us are ruled by things that have not even happened yet. The conversation you keep rehearsing, the failure you keep imagining, the knock on the door you dread. What if all of it, every ounce of that dread, could be dismantled with 3 deliberate steps? Cato used them, and by the end of this, so will you. Rome, 1st century before Christ. A boy of 4 years old is dangled out of a window by his heels. A visiting rebel is demanding that Rome grant citizenship to his people, and he is using terror to make his point, shaking the child, threatening to drop him onto the stones below. Every other child screams. This one does not. Little Cato hangs there, silent, staring back at the man with a cold, level gaze, as if to say, "Do it then." The rebel is unnerved. He pulls the boy back inside, and everyone in that room understood something strange had just walked into the world. This was not normal courage. This was something colder, deeper, almost unsettling. Where does a 4-year-old learn to look death in the eye and refuse to blink? He did not learn it, not yet, but the seed was there, and Rome would spend the next 50 years watching it grow into the one man Julius Caesar could never break. Cato grew into a politician unlike any Rome had seen. He walked to the Senate barefoot in the cold. He wore black when others wore purple. He refused bribes so consistently that his honesty became a weapon, because a man who wants nothing cannot be bought, and a man who cannot be bought cannot be controlled. But here is what almost no one realizes. This unshakable calm was not a gift he was born with. It was a discipline he built, brick by brick, through a practice so strange that his own friends thought he had lost his mind. He would dress in rags and walk through the city, deliberately inviting the mockery of strangers. He would eat the plainest food and sleep on the hardest ground while owning enough wealth for luxury. People whispered that he was performing, showing off his virtue. They were wrong. He was training for something. He was rehearsing the loss of everything a man could lose before it could ever be taken from him. And that rehearsal was about to be tested against the most dangerous man who ever lived. Here is where the stakes become almost unbearable. Rome is tearing itself in half. On one side, Julius Caesar, a general of terrifying genius, marching his armies toward the heart of the Republic. On the other, the old order and its stubborn, incorruptible conscience, Cato. Everyone else is calculating. Everyone else is asking the quiet question that fear always whispers: which side will win, and how do I end up on it? Senators are switching loyalties overnight. Friends are becoming informants. The safe move, the smart move, is to bend, to flatter Caesar, to survive, and Cato will not do it. Not because he is reckless, because he has already decided who he is, and no threat can renegotiate that decision. Now pause, because you know this feeling, even if you have never seen a battlefield. You have felt it the morning you did not want to get up, when a single dreaded task loomed so large it swallowed the whole day. You have felt it staring at a message you were too afraid to send, the job you did not apply for, the truth you did not say out loud, the relationship you stayed in because leaving was terrifying and staying was merely numb. Fear does not need a dictator with an army. It uses smaller weapons on you: a ringing phone, an unopened email, a door you are afraid to walk through, and it wins the same way every time, not by hurting you, but by making you imagine the hurt over and over until you surrender before anything has even happened. That is the trap Cato had trained his entire life to escape. The armies clashed, Caesar won, and Cato retreated to a city called Utica with the last free men of Rome. Knowing the end was coming for him, most men in his place would have begged. Caesar was famous for his mercy. He pardoned enemies eagerly, because a pardoned enemy is a public monument to the pardoner's greatness. All Cato had to do was ask, and he would live. And that precisely was the one thing Cato would never do. But why? Why choose death when life was being offered with open hands? The answer is the first step of his code, and it is the opposite of everything you have been taught about fear. Step 1. Look directly at the worst thing. Do not glance at it and turn away. Do not distract yourself. Stare into it until it stops flickering at the edge of your vision and stands still in front of you. The Stoics had a name for this practice. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, Cato would calmly walk through the worst that could happen: exile, poverty, pain, death, not to torture himself, but to rob these things of their ambush. Because here is the mechanism almost no one understands. Fear lives in the blur. It thrives in the vague, shapeless dread of what might come. The moment you force it into sharp focus and name it exactly, something shifts. The monster in the dark is always larger than the monster in the light, and modern science has finally caught up to what Cato knew 2,000 years ago. Psychologists today call it affective forecasting, and study after study shows the same thing. Human beings dramatically overestimate how much future pain will hurt and how long it will last. We predict devastation. We get discomfort. The dread is almost always worse than the event. There is even a clinical practice used to treat crippling anxiety called exposure therapy, deliberately repeatedly facing the feared thing until the nervous system simply stops firing the alarm. That is what Cato was doing with his rags and his hard ground and his cold mornings. He was running exposure therapy on his own soul, centuries before there was a word for it. Which brings us to step 2. Separate what you control from what you do not. Cato could not control whether Caesar won. He could not control whether he lived or died, but he could control one thing absolutely: whether he would bow. The Stoics drew a hard line down the middle of reality. On one side, the things that are up to you, your choices, your judgments, your character, your response. On the other side, everything else, other people, outcomes, the past, the future, the roll of the dice. And nearly all human suffering, they realized, comes from one mistake: trying to control what is on the wrong side of that line. You cannot control whether you get the job. You can control whether you apply. You cannot control whether she says yes. You can control whether you ask. You cannot control the storm. You can control how you stand in it. Cato had moved every single thing that mattered to him onto the side he controlled: his integrity, his freedom, his refusal to be owned. And once a man has done that, there is simply nothing left to take hostage. That is why he was smiling. That is why the sword did not frighten him. He had already won the only battle that was ever his to win. So, here is the payoff to the question we started with. What did Cato know that you do not? On his final night, he asked for a book, a dialogue by Plato on the immortality of the soul. He read it calmly, twice. Then, in the quiet, he chose his own end on his own terms, refusing to let Caesar own even the last moment of his life. And when Caesar heard the news, the conqueror of the world spoke words that history never forgot. Cato, he said, "I begrudge you your death, for you begrudged me the chance to save your life." Read that again. The most powerful man alive felt that he had lost, because you cannot defeat a man who has already accepted the worst and chosen his response to it. That is the third and final step, and you can use it tonight. Step 3. Act as if it has already happened, then act anyway. Tonight, take the one thing you are avoiding, the call, the decision, the confession, the task, and do what Cato did. First, look straight at it. Write down, in plain words, the worst realistic outcome, not the vague dread, the specific event. Second, draw the line. Ask, what part of this is actually mine to control, and what part am I torturing myself over for no reason? Cross out everything on the wrong side of that line. Third, act. Do the thing while the fear is still present, because courage was never the absence of fear. It was the decision that something matters more. You will discover what Cato discovered. The dread was the dragon. The deed was nothing. Here is the gut punch, and I want you to sit with it. You will never be free of the things you refuse to face. You will only be ruled by them. Cato did not conquer fear by becoming fearless. He conquered it by looking at the worst again and again until it had nothing left to show him. So tomorrow, when the small dread comes, the phone, the door, the message, do not turn away. Turn toward it. That is where your freedom has been hiding the whole time. If this stirred something in you, follow along, because the next story we tell might be the one that changes how you face everything.